I really haven't heard the term like used from like to describe me, like mulatto. I heard my stepmom use the term to describe herself. Like, so I don't know if she thought of it as a derogatory term, and that's why I never really thought of it as a derogatory term either. But I think that now that I know, like, the context of it is kind of derogatory, and like I don't know, like I mean, if the person's comfortable with me that being used to describe them, I guess it'd be alright. But like I haven't really been like described as that myself.
Growing up, I thought mulatto just meant mixed person. I didn't realize that it was a derogatory term. I thought it just meant mixed people. You know, no big deal. I didn't know it was like probably as bad as calling a black person an N-word. So I just learned that a couple minutes ago. But I guess mulatto is actually a very negative word that should not be used.
Actually, I heard of mulatto like in textbooks before, and like sort of outdated stuff. The first time I actually heard someone say it was actually one of my friends who was white, and she said mulatto. And honestly, I didn't really know what to think about it. To me, it just seemed like one of those outdated terms, but I didn't get offended by her using it. I just told her that usually people say mixed or biracial.
Mulatto pisses me off. It has been said to me in the South, mostly, or from people coming from small towns, even in the North. I've always been told by my mom that it's a derogatory term. She's always went off on people that have referred to her kids as mulatto. And so I know the history behind the word as well, and I read a lot of books about I read a lot of racial dramas and a lot of memoirs and things that just kind of bring up different I guess viewpoints and things that have been dealt with surrounding language and terms to do with race. And so the term mulatto really makes me angry, and it has been used. People are like, so you're mulatto, or she's mulatto, and I'm like, what did you say to me? Like, what did you say about me? What did you call me? Like, and I think the people that use it they think it's politically correct, like you said, and it's so wrong. Like, I don't understand how they think that's politically correct, because that's ridiculous. But yeah, it makes me very angry. It's not a term that I'm fond of at all. Mainly in high school, a little bit in college, but more so in high school. I think since I've gotten to college, I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with myself and my naturalness. But when I was in high school more, I was kind of the quirky one of the group, and all my friends had perms, and I never really wanted a perm because I liked my curly hair. Every once in a while I straighten it if I just don't want to deal with it for a week, but it was always, people always were like, oh, on the one hand, the black girls, so-called black girls, non-mixed girls, fully black girls, whatever you want to say, would always say, oh, you have such good hair, you have such good hair. And then the friends of mine that were, and they had perms, but the friends of mine that were mixed that also had perms, always pressured me to get a perm because my hair is kind of a little bit unruly at times. And it was seen as though like that was the black thing to do. And I think that kind of what a little bit of what pressured me is that people are always telling me that I have good hair. And I was like, I'm black, and I felt like that was taking away from my blackness. Not necessarily that I didn't like my hair, like I love my hair, but it was, it annoyed me that people were always saying, oh, you have good hair, and I felt like there's not really such a thing as good hair. So I caved into the pressure from my biracial black friends to get a perm. And it was like the worst experience of my life. And there's still some hair that does not curl in the back of my head. It's really not cool. So, I don't know. And I always, was striving to be a little bit darker. I always, wanted to, this year I did do this year. I bought some tanning lotion in like the Hawaiian Tropic bottle. I guess I always, I'm very comfortable with myself and my racial identity, but I say there are some things I am insecure about, I would say, and I always feel as though somebody's always trying to say, like, you're not black enough, or you're not. I never really felt like that from my Hispanic side, because I never really hung out with a lot of Hispanic people. There just weren't a lot in my community that I grew up in. And but I always felt like people were saying, you're not black enough. And so that really ended up affecting me so much that I like permed the hair that I loved so much, just so that I could fit in with the what it meant to be black. So it was an experience.
I don't really think I had put like an effort towards identifying one race over another. I think like I try to like dress like probably more like a certain way to identify with African American. But like with my hair, like it like grows into an afro and like I cut it, so it's probably like the same way. But I think I identify more African American culture because that's how I was raised. That's like all I know is African American culture, so I identify with that more. I listen to like all styles of music though, too, and genres of music. So
I wouldn't call them efforts to identify with one race group or another. I would just say they are who I am and how I grew up. But yeah, I listen to a certain kind of music, and I wear certain kind of hairstyles, and I dress a certain way, but it's just because it's who I am. Yeah, I think people have seen it though and said that it's more one race than another. I listen to R&B, and I like to get my hair put in twists, and I like, I don't like the preppy clothing, and so I don't know if it's. I think it's just because my cultural identity is African American, just because of the culture I grew up in, and that's my home, that's my family, that's where I'm comfortable, and that's who I am. And I don't think it's just because I'm trying to be black, but it's just that that's the environment I was raised in, and that it coincides with the environment that a lot of African American people are raised in, but I don't think it defines who they are.
I guess at different times in my life, I've tried to identify more or less with some things. When I was having a really rough time, I would try to rationalize by saying, well, I'm not even American, I'm just German, since I was born in Germany and my mom is German. Other times in high school, it was definitely more like, I usually listen to R&B music, and then if I was with white people, I would sort of downplay that, or play it up if I was with black people. Other than that, also the way I dress too has changed a lot based on what I want to identify with. In high school was a lot more wanted to basically be this like the urban hip hop chick or whatever, but I don't know. So you guys.
I think in the past, I probably, maybe even only